Today, we are going to talk about obstacles. It's going to be a fun one. I wanted us to dive into this because obstacles are inevitable. We all have them. We all go through them. There's really no way around them. And if we can shift our relationship that we have to obstacles, it can make such a profound difference on our lives and how we experience the day to day. Because if we're always resisting obstacles, if we're feeling like, oh, why is this always happening to me? That's one experience and certainly a way a lot of people choose to experience life, versus if we're looking at obstacles from a lens of what are we learning, how is this serving us, and really seeing that they're a necessary part of life. You can even see, just as I'm explaining it, how different our experience of the day-to-day, of obstacles, of all the things that we go through, how it becomes. So I really want us to dive in here. And I first just want to share that when it comes to obstacles, we can call them challenges, triggers, whatever we want to call them, they are always going to happen. A lot of times we wish that we won't have obstacles or that life would be easier or whatever it might be. But ultimately, obstacles are an essential part of life because that's how we grow. If things are going really well and nothing's ever wrong, then do we ever look to change things? Do we ever look to shift things in life, the way we're operating, or see things in a different perspective? No, oftentimes we don't, or it will take us a lot longer to do that and to have the growth than if an obstacle gets put in our way. We ultimately have to shift because we have to work through that obstacle, which will then give us some other lens on the other side, or we have to shift how we're showing up to it to actually work through the obstacle. So obstacles are essential. There is no such thing as a life without obstacles. Again, they're essential for ourselves to grow. And our souls came here with a set of obstacles to experience, because our souls, right? Basically what we're doing here as humans is it's kind of a little playground for our souls, our higher selves, to learn all of the things that they want to learn in this lifetime. So in order to do that, what actually speeds that up is obstacles. So having obstacles is actually getting us closer to the growth that we're really here to do, and to our fullest potential, to the human that we're becoming, to really experience all of life. So when we can get on board with this, that obstacles are actually here to help us, that they're here to support us in our soul's growth, in our growth as a human, we can start to view obstacles a little bit differently. And it can shift our perspective around them. A lot of times we go through life, and a lot of people in society, we believe these obstacles are happening to us and we become victim to them. Why does this always happen to me? We blame, we shame, we guilt other people, whatever it is, all the stuff we just take these things that hit us in life and that come, and sometimes it can really knock us down, or we can feel, again, victim to it, and we give our power away in that instance. We feel like this is happening to me. I don't have control over it. There's nothing I can do. And we act accordingly. When we do that, that really seeps our power, that really seeps our ability to grow, and that really just takes so much out of the experience for us, out of the obstacle. And I want to also note, I am not diminishing anyone's obstacle as I share all of this. Sometimes life can be really, really effing hard. And sometimes obstacles can really suck and be, there's like insane obstacles, right? That people go through that we can't even explain, or it feels like so wrong that they have to go through this. And so I really just want to honor everyone in that and really just clarify, I'm not diminishing anyone's obstacle by sharing what I'm sharing. I just ultimately want to provide you with and invite you into a new lens and a new view if you feel that it is supportive for you. Oftentimes too, when people are going through obstacles, it can feel so big in the moment and so much, and a lot of times it is. But then when we go years out, right, maybe 5 years out, 10 years out, sometimes even less, depending on how big the obstacle is, we can actually see what we learned from it, or actually really see why it was essential on our path for us to grow into who we are meant to become, or for the life that we're meant to live, or whatever reason it is. But in hindsight, we can often start to make sense of the obstacle. You can even think of a lot of people who, if you think of like Oprah, Walt Disney, Tony Robbins, these huge people, they all went through a lot of obstacles in their childhood that really molded them into who they became today and into having the strength to get all of the no's that they got along the way and to really just keep persevering and push through. In business, we talk about every no gets you closer to a yes. It's all of those obstacles are just building you into what you're actually meant for and who you're meant to become. Obstacles, they're kind of just molding us all the way as we grow. And one thing I want to share about obstacles too is level 10 obstacles are going to be different for every single person. Each soul chose different level 10 obstacles. So what one person might consider a level 10 obstacle, like this horrific situation that people would think like, oh my God, how could this happen to you? And it could really, really just change a lot of things in someone's life, right? A really intense obstacle. Someone else could have something that's seemingly from the outside smaller, or that other people might not even see going on, maybe not too much shifts in their life, but for them, that's their level 10 obstacle because that was the level 10 that the soul chose. So not all obstacles are created equal, right? And not everyone is going to understand what you're actually going through in your obstacle. So I really also want to share that, where if you're feeling like you're, a lot of times I know myself and other people, we feel like, oh, but can I really talk about these obstacles? Like, have I gone through enough? Is it enough compared to some insane stories that we hear that are so devastating? And I want to really give you that permission that, again, your soul came here with a certain set of obstacles to learn. And so your level 10 is going to be different from someone else's. And it doesn't mean that you've gone through any less or whatnot, because you might have viewed that experience as different. I'm talking in a bit of vague terms here, but hopefully you guys can understand what I'm talking about. And ultimately just really owning, like, it's okay to feel the way that you feel. Your level 10 is your level 10, and really allowing you to feel and go through your obstacles as well. I also just want to share too, with all of this, when you think about things like for me, and when I shared my story about in my business, how it was so hard because I got everything I wanted and I just was miserable. Like I couldn't even let it in. I couldn't enjoy it. And I thought about walking away from it. All of that, while it was so hard in the moment, and especially I shamed myself so much, like I shouldn't feel this way. I should be grateful. Like, who am I to not even appreciate all of this? And I should be so happy, and all these shoulds. Yeah. All of that, though, led to really me finding so much more of myself and of my purpose in this world, what I'm really here to do, and work that I'm so passionate about. So it all happened for me for a reason. And that's what I want to get into with obstacles, because when we see things differently, it can really shift how we can work with them. What we resist persists. So we can constantly resist these obstacles and think, why me? Why is this happening to me again? And we can just never learn the lesson. And then life feels really hard because they keep showing up. Or we can look at these obstacles and say, wow, there's something here for me. What am I here to learn? What is this teaching me? And as we learn the lessons, the obstacles shift. They get a bit less and less about things as we learn different lessons, or they move to a different area. And you hear a lot of people in the personal growth space teaching about this spiral staircase, right? The spiral staircase goes upward because kind of at each level, there's a different level of the obstacle with a new level of consciousness that we're at. And so we're constantly learning different obstacles. We actually have, again, our souls came here with specific lessons to learn. So we actually have different levels of obstacles that we will go through. For example, a lot of us came here to learn to love ourselves. So we will have different situations come up in our lives that will kind of brush up against the edges of, well, is she going to love herself here or is she not? Maybe someone will say something really terrible. And is that going to affect us more to go against ourselves? Or will we say, no, I'm not standing for that. I love myself and I'm not taking that on as true, right? What will we do? And based on that, that's going to dictate what level are we at in our self-love. This happens in a lot of different areas. These obstacles are all going to, again, help us learn the lessons that we're meant to learn to become the version of us that we are meant to become. Another piece I want to bring in too is things typically will get really loud before they're ready to be healed or worked through. And so I can always know a lot of times when things are really coming up for me and they're super loud, they're showing up in different areas of life, I'm very fixated on it, that I will look at it and say, oh, that's actually a good thing, because that means that it's ready to move through. It's ready to heal. Because otherwise you're just kind of stuck in this pattern and it's happening, but it's not so front and center that it will just keep happening in the background. But really when these obstacles get loud, it's like, oh, Ashley, it's time to look at this. It's time to look at this. So instead of, which I used to do, being like, oh, why am I going through this? Like, I thought I moved past this already. Why is this happening? Whatever it might be, it's no, this is coming up for you to heal. So I will literally tell myself that at times, and that helps me move through it as well. Like, this is literally coming up for me to heal. This is coming up for me to move through it. So I'm going to take that invitation and actually do it. And then I'm grateful that it showed up, because I'm happy to move through it, versus again, having it kind of run my life in the background within my subconscious. So if things are really coming up for you right now, or at any point, really start to just see if you can shift that. This is coming up because there's some patterns here or something here for me to really look at, for me to really heal, to move through, and it's not just, annoying obstacles. It's like, oh, no, it's really loud because I get to move through it. And even that perspective really shifts it, because again, too, what we resist persists. So if we're constantly resisting all these different obstacles, if we're constantly resisting the challenges, the triggers, if we don't want to do it, it's just going to keep coming back. And it's going to be like, hey, look at me. And hey, look at me. And it's going to keep coming back until we look at it. So when things are really loud, instead of resisting them, it helps to really turn towards them with compassion, acceptance, and love for yourself, and really start to go into them and start to see, okay, why is this coming up for me? What is this here to teach me? What do I need to move through here? What's ready to start to heal and really work through those obstacles? What do I need to detach from? Whatever it might be. There's a series of questions that you can ask yourself as well. When we can see obstacles in this way, it's actually really empowering, because instead of dreading the obstacles, we can understand this is just a way of life. And this is just life, basically, right? We have to have obstacles, and we can start to appreciate them a bit, because we can start to see, oh, what is this teaching me? Like, why is this happening to me? This is showing me something. What is that? And we can start to, again, learn from them and see, wow, this is an opening here, and start to almost play with them a little bit as they come up in our lives. Right now, of course, I'm not talking about huge things that can happen. If you want to apply this, that's amazing. But I'm talking about day-to-day obstacles that we go through as well. And triggers too, right? Triggers that we go through a lot. They're always showing us something. I'll do a whole nother episode on triggers, but I did just want to weave it in here, because a lot of the obstacles that we deal with in life do really trigger us and do come through triggers. So again, they're areas for us to own things, for us to step into, for us to really just learn more about ourselves and see maybe what we're not claiming, and how we can, again, express ourselves even more fully, bring our power back to ourselves. They show us, where are we giving our power away? And a lot of times obstacles, they're redirections. If we don't get an opportunity that we really thought we wanted, well, maybe it wasn't actually meant for us. We thought that it was, and our human mind can get so fixated on it, but maybe that's actually not what it's for. Maybe we are getting redirected to something better, to something more on our path that's actually true to us. Sometimes we can get so devastated if we don't get what we worked so hard for, or what we thought. But a lot of times, I'm sure you can even go back in your own life and think about it. It just led you to something more, led you to what was really true for you. There's multiple times, I can't think of specifics right now, but I know where I can think back in my life, and I was so bummed that it didn't work out in the moment. But then when I looked at it 6 months to a year later, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. And if that had worked out, I would have never found this, and now I feel like I'm meant to be doing whatever I was doing, or find this thing. For example, even if you don't get a house that you really wanted, and you're so bummed in the moment, but then you find this amazing dream house that you always had everything that you were hoping for. Well, that obstacle led you to that. If you had gotten that other house, you never would have found the one that you were really meant for. Actually, a perfect example of this is when I got fired from my job. I was so terrified in the moment. I didn't know what I was going to do or how I was going to snap back from that. And then just a few months later, I ended up starting my business, which set me up on this path to truly live a life beyond my wildest dreams and really have the freedom and impact that I was hoping for. So obstacles are really just redirections too, showing us, right, again, building us up to who we're meant to be, to what we're supposed to have in our lives. Sometimes it's even keeping us not settling. If things are just good, if we're just driving along, like I was saying in the beginning, we just kind of hang. But the obstacles, shake shit up. They make it interesting. They force us to grow, to shift things, to see things in different ways. You can look at them as, again, what is this showing me? What is this teaching me? What's for me here? And while I say this, I just want to be clear. I'm not telling you to bypass the obstacle, to not actually feel what it brings up in you, to not actually acknowledge the trigger or the activation or whatever it might be. I want you to actually go into that. I want you to move through that. The body holds so much. The way that you see your obstacles as well is directly tied to your nervous system state. Like I said, we're always going to have obstacles, problems, whatever you want to call them. However, the way that we perceive them can completely shift. Because like I talked about in a previous episode, the world is a mirror to our nervous system. So when our nervous system is super agitated, stressed, active, or dysregulated, we're going to experience life and perceive it in a very different way. For example, when my nervous system was all over the place, I would experience everything as a problem. It literally felt like I was playing whack-a-mole in my life with problems. It was like I put one fire out and then another, and then I'd whack-a-mole, and then I'd whack the next one and whack the next one. It was constant problems, and it felt like so much to deal with. Even if I went away and I thought about, like I mentioned, right, going off to a farm or just leaving everything behind, they still occurred. They still came with me because I couldn't outrun myself and what I was actually a match for and what my nervous system was attracting. However, once I did the deeper work and I really worked to regulate my nervous system and build more capacity to hold everything in my life, everything shifted. The obstacles that were occurring all of the time, I'm not even a match for anymore. So they don't even occur in my life. And then the ones that do, I oftentimes don't even see them as obstacles. I just see them as, oh, here's something we have to deal with. All right, let's deal with it and move on. I'm just able to get through them much faster. And in the ones that do still seem like obstacles, and that can be big problems in my life or whatnot, and I could perceive them that way, I now have the tools to work with them and to regulate myself in the moment, to then utilize the universal laws I'm going to share with you to move through the obstacle and then really see how it's serving me and deal with these obstacles in a much different light than I was previously. So it's not always the obstacle at hand, it's how are we interacting with the obstacle? How are we seeing it? And as we shift our nervous system, as we start to regulate more and builds capacity more, we will start to view these obstacles differently. So again, not only will we see the obstacles differently and perceive them and interact with them differently, like I have, we also won't be a match for those same obstacles. So the obstacles, like we talked about, the spiraling up staircase, will shift as we work through things and as we regulate our nervous systems and as we grow as well. So that's something to definitely keep in mind, and also why nervous system work is so important and really the foundation for everything. What you can do even is like think in the past about some obstacles that really shook you. And maybe now that maybe you have worked on your nervous system since, or maybe you've grown in certain ways, maybe now they don't seem like as big things, or you can see how you're attracting different pieces in your life, or maybe your life feels calmer. I know for me, right, that was, or maybe you haven't done this work yet, so you don't notice that, but I want you to know that is possible as well, because as you gain more capacity to handle the obstacles, we interact with them differently. When things happen too, our nervous system a lot of times is acting from the past. So when a trauma, when we meet someone, when an obstacle happens, we might disproportionately react to it. And we're like, why is this happening? Like, this doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Or our husband or partner might say, why do you care so much? It doesn't really matter. I know my husband says that to me, but it's because our nervous system is actually associating that event happening right now with a past event that it categorized as similar. And so we start behaving as we did when that past event happened. And sometimes we'll act out that same age that we were when that past event happened as well. So it's not actually something, we're not reacting to the present. It's not something that's happening there. So we can get really caught up in these obstacles because they're reminding us of something else. When another obstacle happened and it really didn't go well at the time, or when we deemed something to be unsafe and it got imprinted within our nervous system, and then that's what we're acting from. And our mind is making these quick generalizations to keep us safe, and it's saying, oh, that's a big threat. And then we laser focus in on that threat too, to make sure we can avoid it, we can keep us safe. And so we just laser focus on that obstacle, and it can consume us in so many ways. Again, this is just the nervous system keeping us safe, but it can kind of detract us from actually feeling the way we want to feel because we get so caught up in, oh my gosh, what's happening, this obstacle, and so triggered or so activated and so just spinning around it, whatever it might be, that it can be hard to move through. So just really recognizing too that this is just your nervous system, really, again, trying to protect you from this threat, focusing on the threat so you can survive. And it's reacting from the past. Typically when we quote unquote overreact or whatever we might think it is, it's because it's something from the past, not actually relevant to the situation happening in front of us. Our mind is just making that correlation and that connection. So we act in accordance. So understanding that can be really supportive, and then having the compassion for ourselves in how we show up in that way, and really allowing yourself to process whatever needs to be processed through your body, through journaling, through shaking, through there's so many different practices, through just really giving yourself what you need to move through crying, through screaming, whatever it might be, really letting yourself move through that obstacle, really letting yourself feel it, like actually feel it, not bypassing it, not reframing it too much, but right, just letting yourself feel the emotions. What am I feeling right now? I'm feeling threatened. I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling grief. I'm feeling disgust, whatever it is, and allowing that to all be present, to feel it, to move through the pain, to be there. And from there, then we can start to notice, and even with this in mind, as we move through, if you're able to hold it, right, again, what is this teaching me? What am I here to learn and see? And I know for myself, when I can start to really notice that, the obstacle lessens so much a lot of the time, or I won't feel as bad about the obstacle. I'll be able to say, oh, well, I'm actually glad that happened because I really learned this great lesson, or because it really taught me this. And I can appreciate the obstacle for really showing me the way. There's actually this book, The Obstacle is the Way, and it literally is. For example, there was this situation I was dealing with a bit ago in my business, and it was like my mind was just so fixated on it. And, afterwards I was like, oh, should I have acted differently? Should I have done this? Kind of how this should spiral like we do. And I kind of couldn't let it go for a bit. And I was also bothered by how the person acted. And, I kind of reacted to them. And I started just really thinking about it. And really, again, I regulated myself, right? I worked through it. I moved through it in my own body. And then I started to look at it from a bigger lens and really see, oh my gosh, I'm actually so glad this happened this way because it taught me so much. I learned such a big lesson through it. Like it literally could not have happened any differently because I would not have learned the lesson. It showed me so much. So even though it was hard to go through, I was able to get so much from it because I was able to actually, again, move through the sensations I was feeling and then look at it from a different lens and really see what it was showing me. And I was in awe of how just perfectly orchestrated that it was to really learn this lesson, which I knew was a really big lesson for me to learn. Just within that time period, it had been coming up in different ways. So I was really grateful for that. So we can look and actually be really grateful for these obstacles that we have. Another piece is like, are we seeing the bigger picture? As humans, we could be so fixated on what's in front of us. So like I was saying earlier, it's that redirection that we don't realize. We are so fixated on right now, this isn't working out exactly how I want, or right now, this person's bothering me, or right now, this thing is happening, whatever it is, this challenge is here, that we can get so caught up in it again because our mind laser focuses. We don't actually take the time to say, wait, but what's the bigger picture here? Can I zoom out? Can I see how this could actually be supporting me in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Or can I see even in 6 months, in a month, in a day, right? Whatever is how this could actually be supporting me. And I'm not saying we have to like it, but it's looking at it and thinking, oh, I may not like this and I may resist it and I may not want this, but is there growth for me here? Is there potentially something on the other side if I can zoom out enough to see the bigger picture? Again, we don't need to like what's happening. That's not a part of it at all, right? We want to allow the natural emotions to arise towards it. And without liking it and just accepting it as is, are we able to zoom out and see where there could be some growth edges for us here? So start to look at the bigger picture of things too as we move through obstacles can be really, really supportive. If you can get your mind to get out of that laser focus on the threat and really see bigger picture, there's so many ways that we could see how it's actually supporting us. Also, it's like, will this even matter when I really go out in the bigger picture? And a lot of times it won't. And so just recognizing that too of like, then why am I going to harp on it now? Of course, we have to do a lot of the regulation. We really need to work through it when we're feeling that to come back to ourselves, to be able to get to that state where our mind can open and we can move from a different place. But that is something that we can do as well. Also, I know that I'm talking about obstacles in a way that can be triggering for some. Some of you might be rolling your eyes as, oh, she's just telling me that this is happening for me, that this is something to learn from. But this is so frustrating. This is a huge deal in my life. And, I'm not there yet, or I don't want to see it that way, or this isn't fair. She doesn't understand what I'm going through. This is so bad. And this has been so painful in my life that that's not it, right? I can't see a reason for it. I can't. And I get that. I really want to honor you in that too, because I know that it could be so difficult at times, and you don't have to take this perspective on as truth. I'm just simply suggesting it as something useful you could play with to try on, because a lot of times it can be really heavy when we have all these obstacles, when we have huge ones come in our lives. But if we can start to try on these new perspectives, what I want to do is empower you with ultimately the way that you could feel like you have the most agency and choice in your life. And when we can take on this perspective, it can, if we're able to really open up to it, it can give us that, and it can give us more. So if it feels useful for you, I really want you to take this on. And if it feels like too much right now, then I want you to know that I honor you in that and really respect you wherever you are at in that. There's 2 universal laws that I want to introduce as well here. I'm not going to go so into them. I think they'll probably each need their own episode in the future, but I'll touch on them here. So one of them is the law of focus. Basically, Cliff Notes version of this is what we focus on is what we get, right? What we focus on expands. And so if we constantly are focusing on the obstacle, focusing on how bad it is, how terrible it is that this happened, how we can't even believe this, whatever it might be, or how this person did this, whatever, and we're just spiraling in that, then that expands. That feeling expands. We miss out on a lot of other opportunities that are coming our way because we're so focused on this obstacle. If we're saying, oh, life is so hard, so terrible, right? We're just so focused on the fact that life is so terrible that we don't actually see the beauty in life, that literally more terrible things will happen to us because that's where our focus is. So we will create more of these obstacles or more things we're perceiving, right, that are bad as well when we keep focusing this way. So if we can start to shift the focus again to see, what is this teaching me? Why is this happening right now? And start to actually come back to ourselves to move through it, we can start to shift the focus of what is happening in our lives. You can really use that law, right? Look at a lot of the things that maybe you're complaining about in your life, that you're blaming, if you're feeling victim, if you're feeling, again, like all these things are happening to you, all these obstacles. Notice what you're focusing on and see if you can start to shift that and watch how that changes your life as well. Another universal law I want to bring up is the law of balance. This is a really, really powerful law that as a human can be very hard to actually integrate and embody. The law is everything is balanced, means there's an equal amount of quote unquote good and an equal amount of quote unquote bad to everything. So right now, if you're really seeing something as a negative obstacle and you're really caught in that, you are unbalanced, which means that you are only seeing the negative side of things, and there has to be positives because it's literally a law, a universal law, which means it shows up in everything. So if you're really focused on the negative area of whatever's happening, this will take, usually I have to really regulate, really ground myself, to remove that laser focus of the brain to get out of the trigger and not be so caught up in it. But from there, okay, let's balance. What are the actual positives? There has to be positives in this. So what are they? Oh, it's actually causing me to pause maybe a bit more. It's causing me to redirect and look at other options. It's making me look at myself and maybe how I'm showing up in this situation. Whatever it might be, but there's definitely positives. You just maybe can't see them yet. So see if you can allow yourself to get to a place where, again, maybe you're really focused on the negatives, but to where you can find that balance, because it is in everything. And that means obstacle isn't just negative, it's got the balance. So when we talk about obstacles in general, they're not something to avoid because there's always an equal amount of good that comes with them. So really anchoring that it's literally a universal law, so it has to be so. And when we can see that, we can start to approach obstacles lighter and they can feel easier. They're just something that we're working through. There are ways, and we'll go through them in different episodes of the podcast, where obstacles can start to feel lighter. Maybe we can start to get a little less because we're actually reacting to them differently. We're responding to them differently because we have deepened our relationship with ourselves, because we've started to really master our emotions, regulate our nervous systems, because we've really come back to ourselves and rooted to who we are at our core. We can experience the obstacles of life very differently. And it's my aim with this podcast to really get you to a place where you have these principles so that you are experiencing life differently. differently. You are having different perspectives and you're seeing things in a different way, and you're able to move with what life gives you. And it's not so heavy and it doesn't always weigh you down because you understand all of these concepts that I'm going to share. One other really powerful piece with obstacles is you can really see how you grow in real time. Because, for example, I know for me, one of my favorite things is looking at, sometimes maybe I'll feel like, oh, not too much has shifted. Like time, you guys, seriously, what is time? I mean, time flies. I don't even understand. The older I get, the faster time goes. I'm like, how are we already at this point of the year? Every single year I do the same thing. And so sometimes it can feel like, whoa, like a year happened. What really happened in that time? However, one of my favorite practices is I will look at how much I grew in regards to how I handle different situations. So maybe a situation happened last year where I was in a conflict with someone and I saw how I handled it. And then I was in a kind of similar vein, right, type of conflict with a different person, right, or whatnot. And I handled it so differently. The way I saw it, the way I experienced it, the way I communicated, whatever it is, I can see that growth. Or if something happened in my life or my business that maybe wasn't ideal, and I can see how I handled it then. And then I see how I handled it now. And it's so different. And that really is such a great way for obstacles to really show me that growth. It's like, wow, I can see, and I'm so proud of myself because I can see how differently I'm handling these situations, which shows me how much I've grown. And so I'm so grateful for those obstacles for showing me that, because I might not recognize that otherwise. And so that's a really cool practice that you can do. Even just think about like obstacles from yourself a year ago or 2 years ago and how you showed up there to how you would I wouldn't even say how you would show up now. You've probably had some type of a similar obstacle in your life in the last 6 months, and to see, okay, how have I showed up differently now compared? Or if you haven't had a similar type of obstacle, think about how you would show up differently now based on everything that you know and, you know, the way that you operate in the world now compared to then. And that can be a huge hack and a huge way to really see obstacles for our growth. Another thing I really want to lay here too is I love this concept. I learned this. I went to a 2-year spiritual school, meditation, energy school, and they said this thing in like the first module that really stood out to me. It was that we all have a case of seriosity and specialitis. We all think everything is so serious when it happens to us, like so, right? Serious. And that we're so special for everything that happens. We are so unique and we're the only ones who go through this. But that's not true. That really, one, it's all a cosmic joke. We are literally on some ball of like rolling around in space. And nothing is actually that serious, even though it feels so serious at times. And I feel like things are so serious a lot of times. So I totally am there with you. And then specialitis. We think that we are the only ones who went through this or who are going through this, and we're so unique in it. And ultimately, there's this saying like, what's personal is actually most universal. So a lot of times we think that we're the only ones going through it, or we think that we're the only ones, again, that have experienced something, but actually everybody has in some vein, maybe not the exact thing, but some strain of it. Again, they're level 10 that they've gone through. We're all just humans trying to get through this life, just moving through it. And so we all go through different things. So I love that. I really wanted to impart that with you so you could really take that, because that really stuck with me. So again, nothing is so serious, or we all have that case of seriitis or in specialitis. We are not unique. We all have veins of our own things. And so we're all really going through this together. And that's the power of talking about it too. Oftentimes when we keep it to ourselves, no one knows. And so we all think we're alone, but we really aren't. If we open our hearts, if we really choose to, we're all really going through this together. We got each other when we really choose to see each other. So I laid down a lot here about obstacles and really the way that we can shift them, really what is available to us when we start to relate to obstacles, to challenges differently, and when we start to really take ownership and agency within our own lives when it comes to them. There's so much power here because obstacles are not going away. So it doesn't really help us to just resist them or feel like, oh, me, and it's always happening. It's if we can actually see, again, that obstacles are helping us. They are really helping us on our soul's path. They are helping us on our growth, on who we are meant to become and what we are meant to do in this world, and they are redirecting us to really where we're supposed to go. It can empower us so much in our day-to-day as we deal with all of these obstacles that we're naturally going to face. So I want you, just to really close out this episode, I want you to think about different obstacles that you've dealt with in the last year, in your childhood, go way back and really see how those obstacles have supported you in your own growth, in who you've become and who you're becoming, and how maybe even without those obstacles, you wouldn't be who you are today. Or you wouldn't be doing things in this world that you love. You wouldn't be as lit up by life that you are, whatever it might be, how these obstacles really served you in coming back more to you as well. And as you can start to notice this more, as you really start to piece this together more, it can open up so many different areas of your life and such a new perspective on just what life is and how life gets to be. The universe, these obstacles, they're not here to make you suffer, to make you struggle. I mean, struggle in a way, but so that you can grow, so that you can become the version of you that you're meant for, so that you can ultimately be who you're meant to be in this world. And so when we can start to shift and see obstacles in this way, again, it really anchors in so much for us. I know for me, when I look at my childhood, when I look, like recently I was having this moment the other day where I was piecing together everything that I went through in my whole life. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes me like the perfect person for what I'm doing. And this makes me so excited for everything that I'm currently excited about and that I currently do in this world, because without all these obstacles, I probably wouldn't have this fire and this passion towards these things, or even this understanding to be able to support people in this way. And so what a gift to all of these different pieces in the mosaic, all these different obstacles to making me who I am. And again, it is not to say that these are not so hard in the moment. And it is not to say that you're not meant to feel them. I want you to feel them all the way. And it's real, right? We're not bypassing anything here. I want you to feel them. And then really see how we can see how all of this is serving us, and the relationship that we have towards them, the perspectives that we have towards obstacles is such a game changer and makes such a difference in truly just how difficult they ultimately feel and in how much we let them overtake our day-to-day life, and how daunting they can feel versus how we are able to see them, work with them, move through them, and see what we learn along the way as well, and who we get to become because of that. So I hope that this really opened your perspective on obstacles. I threw a lot of things in here to really shift your view, and that will really make a big difference for how you're meeting these obstacles that you naturally will have in everyday life. In this episode, I wanted to lay out a foundational way to view obstacles and a way to really conceptually see them that can really serve you and support you. And in further episodes, we'll go into how to actually work with them, and I'll give you more tangible and tactical tools that you can utilize when obstacles, when triggers, when challenges, problems, whatever they may be, come your way. Because like I said, they're never going to go away. It's just a part of life, but we can get better at our capacity to hold them and how we interact with them throughout our lives. So let's take this information, utilize it, and let's get nourished. If this episode resonated with you, I would absolutely love if you could like, share, and subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review as well. It is my mission to support as many women as possible in truly coming back to themselves, rooting into who they truly are, and ultimately become nourished in all areas of their lives. I would absolutely love for you to join me on that mission and help spread this podcast to anyone who you feel that it would be supportive for. Also, it would mean the world to me if you could reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is in the show notes, and let me know how this resonated with you, what you are loving in the podcast, and what you would like to see more of as well, so we can deepen the relationship over there. If you'd like to take these principles deeper and really embody them on a next level in your own life, I invite you to join my email list. The link is in the show notes. I will be emailing you each week. I host live webinars digging even deeper into these concepts and how you can practically apply them into your own life so that you can fully become lit up by life, nourished in all areas, and really embody all of the principles that I share here on this podcast. So again, the link is in the show notes to join. I would absolutely love to have you on there. I provide a ton of value on my list, different practices you can do each week, the webinars that you can tune into, and a lot of other fun goodies as well. And you'll be the first to know about podcast episodes too. So again, hop on over to my email list so that I can fully support you even further, and let's get nourished.